and I am one of the assistant principals here, and I do college and career readiness. So I really want to make tonight more like a workshop where you guys can ask me questions, stop me as we go along, and kind of help make this what you need it to be for your student success. So just feel free to stop me, ask questions. We'll also have questions at the end, but I really want to make it a process tonight that answers a lot of the questions you have going into the junior year.
Is this good angle?
Oh yeah. So this is a process. Parents, you blinked, and now you have a junior. And there's a lot to do this junior year. You may think, oh, we've got another year. They're not a senior yet. But I would like to propose to you that this junior year may even be the most important in high school. This is the year where they really kind of become almost an adult. They start thinking about their futures if they haven't already. And it's a time where they can really volunteer in the community, try to make their own impact in our community, in our world, start figuring out what they want to be for their future and their career. They can be leaders on campus. There's lots of opportunities for your student. And so we really encourage them this junior year to make the most of that. Also, this year, at the end of the year, that's the transcript that we're going to send to the colleges for them to make that academic decision as to what, if they're going to be accepted, what scholarships they're going to receive. So this is a really important year for your student. Not to scare you, I want you to relax. It is a process. We have all year to figure a lot of things out. They don't have to have everything figured out at the end of this year, but we'd really like to start the process and get them to thinking about what their future is going to be. So you've got time, you have resources, stop and ask you questions as we go along, and just know that there's lots of options out there for your student. So this book, I tell the kids I'm old all the time, but I used to watch Blue's Clues with my kids when they were little, and so I told them this was their handy dandy Blue's Clues notebook, and they all laughed at me, but they all knew what I was talking about. So this is their handy dandy notebook for high school. There's lots of information in here. I hope you all received one. They should have received a book in their English classes last week. And it's just a really good resource for your students. I have them here tonight if you need to pick up one on your way out, but it has lots of information in here. Listed here is THS contacts, who they can talk to get help, who their academic advisors are. My name's in there, principals, just lots of different resources here at the campus for them to talk to. There's also a timeline. So if they are looking this year to take an ACT or an SAT, it has all the dates of when those are offered. They're offered on our campus, so they can take them here. There's deadlines on there when they have to register to take the ACT or SAT. Just a really complete timeline, when to apply, what to think about each month through the next 2 years. There's college planning in there, ACT testing information, like I said, financial aid, and all kinds of information about colleges that I'll go into more detail throughout the presentation. How to make those college comparisons. Military questions. If you have an athlete who wants to play sports in college, there's information in there as well. Also, that last section talks about making a resume. Hopefully you guys have started saving the information, or you've been saving it since freshman year. Now's the time to really be putting that together and getting it together for your students.
I think she's about to cry.
So here are the steps we want to go through tonight. We're going to go into detail on all of these, but basically these are your 6-step process for getting ready for college. The first step is to get to know your student. Know what their interests are, know what their strengths and weaknesses are. Hopefully you want to match their interests and their skills and strengths to a future career. And why do they want to consider post-secondary education? I hope your students will want to do that. Consider college characteristics, what they're looking for, list and compare different colleges, apply for admissions, develop a plan, and then review and finalize those plans. So these are the 6 steps we're going to go through tonight. The first one is to kind of talk to your student about post-secondary education. Why would they want to go to college? I know some students are raised in that they didn't know there was an option. They were raised from kindergarten on up, that it was going to be a seamless transition. They were going to go straight from high school to college. Other students Maybe in their home, it's never even been discussed. So from those two extremes, why consider post-secondary education? Well, studies show that students who have something post-secondary education, whether it's a 4-year degree, a master's degree, bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, which is just a 2-year degree, certifications, anything like that, those students are happier, live longer, and make more money over time. They have that camaraderie with other students who've done similar programs, and it just leads to a more fulfilled life, according to the studies. That's some of the reasons for post-secondary education. The increased earning power a lot of times is what brightens those kids' eyes. So that's what we talk about a lot too. But students must take responsibility for their future. It's not about what their parents did or what the expectations are from their family, although that has a lot to do with it. But the student really needs to take responsibility for what they want for their future. And it's our job all together, the school, you, the community, employers, to kind of help educate them about what all is out there for them. So consider college characteristics. All different kinds of colleges. There's public schools, private schools. Public schools are typically organized by the state. A lot of times their tuition is cheaper. The private schools may be affiliated with a religious organization or a different, something like that. And those, typically the tuition cost or the sticker cost is typically higher in those schools. However, a lot of times if your student has the unique talents or things they're looking for at those schools, the actual cost to go to those private schools may wind up being cheaper for your student. So through this process, it's really important to explore, ask questions, and look at the differences in the colleges. You need to also look at the types of majors the school offers. You can't get a degree in engineering at every college. You just can't assume that your major is available at every school you're going to go to. So you have to explore the different majors and things they offer. Look at the different, if they don't offer the major your student is interested in, you may look at related majors that they have, and it might open up totally new doors for your student, but that's also part of that exploration process. Then you would look and consider their admission policy. Different schools have different admission policies. Some schools have what they call an open admission, where students can come and register almost on the first day of the classes in the fall, walk in, register, and go to school that same day. That's very rare. That's some of your smaller schools in the area. Then others, to the other extreme, you have an admission process that may start as early as your junior year, or a lot of times the applications typically open up in June, July or August, right before a student's senior year. The applications vary. A lot of schools are connected through a common application where you fill out one application for multiple schools. The Texas schools, public schools, have combined together, and they have one application called the Apply Texas. So different ways to enroll, but you can check the enrollment process at your schools by using their websites, where they give a lot of information about what they're looking for from your student. So this is a really good time for you and your student to start exploring those websites. The websites will tell you what is the ACT score or the range of ACT scores or SAT scores for the students they admitted this fall, for example, to give you an idea. Then you can say, let's say the range of ACT scores at the school you're interested in is 25 to 28. Your student may have a 24 on the ACT. Then you may want to think about that and then decide, my student needs to take the ACT again and try to get that score up a little bit. So that's why you're exploring those websites. You also need to look at the location of the school. Some students may want to stay within a 2.5, 3 hour radius of Texarkana to be close to family, for emergency situations, for transportation, things like that. Other students are completely open to go abroad or go to East Coast, West Coast. So those are different things you as a family have to discuss what the options are for your student. The size is something. Some college university campus have as many as 50,000 students on their campus going to school. Some campuses are smaller than Texas high school. So you've got to look at your students' preferences and see what they're interested in doing. Then the next thing really becomes a deciding factor for most families, is the cost of going to school there. However, I will caution you to don't necessarily assume at the beginning of the process that the cost that's posted on the website is necessarily what you're going to have to pay. You need to look at the net price. After all the scholarships and the grants and the awards and things that have been issued for your student, then you look at that net cost and do that comparison. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later too. You look at campus activities. What does your student want to do these 4 years? Do they want to be involved in intramural sports? A lot of your students may have participated in activities at Texas High School, like theater or soccer or baseball, but they don't want to play the sports or do those things at the college level competitively, but they still love the sport or love the activity. And so a lot of schools have what they call intramural sports that the students can participate in as well. So look at those activities and things, because all those things help a student feel a sense of belonging and kind of develop their new home away from home. So as I mentioned, the websites for the schools are a really good place to start when you're doing your college search. The websites, a lot of them now have virtual tours where you can kind of virtually walk around campus, get the feel of it, see how you like it, and then also it does show what the admission criteria is for that school, what the required ACT or SAT score is, how many math credits from high school they're looking for. I'll just tell you right now, most colleges are looking for 4 math credits, 4 science, 4 English, 4 social studies, 2 years of foreign language at least, some more. So make sure you go to your colleges and check those websites as you're making that final senior schedule for next year. Make sure you have all the credits that you need from a high school perspective to be admitted into your school. We have academic advisors, lots of people here to help you along the way too. And y'all feel free to interrupt me if I say something that you need to question, okay? Another good way to explore colleges is Monday night, November the 13th. We're going to have college night. Hopefully a lot of you have already participated in this, but this year is really critical for you as juniors. Start talking to these admission counselors. They're going to be here, about 70 different colleges and universities will be here, specifically to talk to your students, to let them know about their programs, activities, scholarships, financial aid, majors. They'll answer a lot of your students' questions, and a lot of times these are the people who are reviewing your student's application, so they can tell you what those things they're looking for. And it's a really good to start putting that face with that paper you're eventually going to get for applying for college.
November 13th.
So when you're comparing the colleges in this book, there is a sheet that helps you compare different colleges as you visit. It helps you compare size, cost, location, things like that. Lots of tools in the book to kind of help you as you're starting this process of comparing different schools. To me, the best way to really get a feel for your college or university is to take a campus visit. Most colleges have on their website where you can register for a tour. Our juniors get 2 days, their junior year and their senior year, that they can go visit a college and they are not penalized for attendance. All you have to do is bring a note back from the college saying that your student went, bring it back with their name and the date, bring it back, and it does not account against them for attendance purposes or exemptions. If it's more than a 300-mile trip, you can also add a travel day with that. So take advantage of that opportunity and let your students go visit these schools.
Yeah.
Walking around these campuses is a good way to get a feel for it. So as you're going on, maybe traveling at Thanksgiving or Christmas, going to see family, go visit the college or university campus and let them get a feel for what it's like to be on a college campus. Go visit the ones that they're interested in if you can possibly do that. This is a great way. Let the college know you're coming. You will schedule a visit, probably on their website. They have admission sessions where they'll talk to you for about 30, 45 minutes about their admission criteria, about their programs and things they have on campus. Then they'll typically do a walking tour around campus where you can possibly go see a dorm as well. Sometimes you have to register for a second tour to go see that dorm, so make sure you check into that with your university as you're scheduling that tour. Another great thing to do while you're visiting campus is if your student has friends who live there. College kids are poor. They'll be glad to go to lunch with you, dinner with you. If you buy them a dinner, they'll come, and they'll give you a really good insight about their experience at the school. So take advantage of those Texas high school kids that are all over the country and experiencing college life now. So go eat on campus. You can even possibly schedule a time where you can go sit in with a class or go to class with a Texas High graduate. Go to class, sit in, get a feel of it. Some college classrooms may look something like this. You may have about 300 people in your class, but some also have class sizes very similar to Texas High School or even smaller. So you just have to let your student get a feel for what they like in the classroom setting, and a college visit is a really good way to do that. So once you've visited and explored during this junior year, by this time next year, maybe even a little bit earlier than this time, maybe by about August 1st, we'd like to have their choices narrowed down to maybe 4 or 5 schools. And these 4 or 5 schools are where they're very interested and where they would like to apply. I recommend of those 4 or 5 schools, what I call a dream school or a reach school. So that's the school that, if that last time on the ACT they scored that 32 or whatever that great score is that they were looking for, they scored that, and everything aligned up money-wise, they got a big scholarship. This is the school, this is their dream school they really want to attend. Apply there. Apply to a few kind of middle of the road where you've gone on the website, you've probably visited, and you've got, and that your ACT score, your experience through high school is in that medium range of where they accept students. And then I want you to also apply to a safety school. A safety school is a school where if life happens and things fall apart, and you've got to have somewhere where you know you can get in, you know you can afford it, and you know you can go. Okay, so that's kind of the range of what we're looking for as far as college applications. Make sure you know when all those deadlines are. The deadlines is kind of a tricky part of this process. A lot of schools may say that the deadline to apply is March 1st or February 1st of their senior year. But the housing deadline might be November 1st, or the scholarship deadline may be December 1st, or the honors program or whatever program you're trying to get into, the deadline may be October 15th. So you have to look at all those deadlines to make sure that you're meeting the deadlines for student programs and the things your student is interested in. Let me tell you, housing becomes very important in a lot of students' lives. Where they live on campus, how close they are to their classes, where their friend group is living can become very important. So you want to get into the application, and a lot of times you have to be accepted into the college or the school before you can apply for housing. So that means sometimes the earlier you apply, the better off you are. Also, sometimes money-wise, the earlier you apply, the more money is available to you. So make sure you take those things into consideration as you're applying for college. And then, of course, last but not least, know the scholarship requirements. Make sure you fit them. You may have to take that ACT or SAT one more time. So these are the things the school is looking for when they consider a person for admission or for a scholarship. I kind of have this listed in order because I think in a lot of ways, sometimes it does come down to ACT or SAT score, but that's just not always true. Just like every student is different, every college is different, everyone's process to get to college is a little bit different. Sometimes if you have an Olympic medalist swimmer, that may become much more important than, and that school is looking for someone for their swim team, that may become much more important than whether or not they were president of student council or have a 35 on the ACT. On the flip side, academics, a lot of times, is one of the very first things that a college will look for. So ACT, SAT score is something I want your students to spend as much time as they possibly can during this junior year studying and preparing for that ACT test so that they can have the highest score possible this time next year when they're applying to school. The strength of their curriculum. A lot of colleges, the application has a counselor school report. On that school report, one of the most common questions is, how strong of a curriculum are they taking? How rigorous is that program? Are they taking the most rigorous they can, or average, or below average? So make sure, depending on what your college is looking for, make sure your student is falling in that area that they need to be falling into. Of course, GPA, class rank lead into that rigorous curriculum. Then activities and awards. I think it's important for students when they're trying to decide about their future career to participate in activities during high school, because I think a lot of those times when they're volunteering to be participating in activities, developing those organizational leadership skills, it really kind of helps them determine what they want to do for their future. So that is very important to be involved. On our campus, we have lots of opportunities like student council, drill team, cheerleader, band, all those organizations that help grow and build your students. However, if your student is one that's just, they don't want to do that, another thing colleges are really looking for these days is impact. How much impact has your student made on the community and the place where they live? So are they leading the band at the youth worship service? Have they, as a result of hearing the news about Hurricane Harvey, are they organizing their friends to develop some kind of program to ship some supplies to help some people? Have they made an impact in their community? So it's not just leadership, it's not just what they've done on a high school campus, it's their impact on the community. That tells a story too, that tells who they are, what they are, beyond just the application or the transcript or their GPA or SAT score. So that's another way to think about it if your student does not want to do all the organized school activities. Think about something where they can make an impact on the community or the world. Letters of recommendation and references. This is something that I think some people overlook in a way, the advantage that you could if you really do this right. A letter of recommendation, a lot of schools and scholarships require, say, 1 or 2 letters of recommendation. Please don't take this as I'm slighting an English teacher anyway. But if you have a 98 on your transcript in English and your ACT score is a 30, and you ask your English teacher to write you a letter of recommendation and she says you're a great student, didn't we already know that from your 98 in English on your transcript and your 30 on the ACT? I think we did. So a letter from your English teacher just saying you're a great student did not add any value. So that letter of recommendation, while it marked off a requirement, you did what you were supposed to do, it really did not add any value to your portfolio. So I'm going to suggest that really for your letters of recommendation, now some may require a letter from a teacher, someone who knows you at school, but I'm also going to think during this year, your students should explore a relationship with someone else who can tell more about their character, what's going on, what makes them tick. So this could be a good example, could be maybe a Boy Scout leader, somebody who knows about the projects and how much effort a student has put into maybe an effort for Boy Scouts. Or a volunteer position where you've worked hard in a particular area. It could be a tennis coach, a soccer coach, somebody like that shows more than just that transcript of that SAT score. Something to think about. Also, the same thing on the essays. Make sure your student really spends some time writing these essays. Now, this is something that they'll probably be doing next year, next summer before they apply. But again, the essays really need to tell who the student is, what they're about, what their goals, what their dreams are, regardless of what the question is. At the end of when the readers, after they've read 10,000 of these, they want to remember it. They want to remember what was unique, what was different about this particular student. So don't make it sound like everybody else's letter, everybody else's story. Make it be unique, let it be your own, and tell who you are.
It would be a comic book, basically.
And then interviews. Don't be caught off guard by the interviews. A lot of times, students are asked, especially for scholarships, not so much for the admission, but for scholarships, they will be asked to come for an interview, or they will be interviewed by a panel of people. Many of our students have never been interviewed before. They really don't know what to expect. So you can Google, top 10 interview questions, let them get prepared. I really enjoy setting up a little mock interview for students. I get 3 or 4 teachers to come with me, and we just question your student before they go on that big scholarship interview. So please take advantage of that service. SAT, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 2 tests. I'm going to back up really far just in case you don't know. All colleges require a college entrance exam score. One of them is SAT, one of them is ACT. It's like Coke and Pepsi, they're just two different brands, two different tests. Your student can choose which one they want to take, or they can take both. I recommend that they take both, then see which one they do the best in, which test they feel most comfortable in, and repeat that one maybe only once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, until they get the score that they need for the colleges that they're looking for. SAT is just one of those tests. They did a redesign on this test about 2 years ago now. They, instead of the big vocabulary words that they used to have that kind of stumped a lot of students, they try to use words in context, words that the students are familiar with. They use passages from our history, from United States history documents, because the juniors are typically the ones taking these tests, and that's the history class they're taking as juniors. So they're trying to make it more friendly for the students and see how those scores play out for your students. There is no penalty for guessing on the SAT. There used to be, but there is no longer a penalty for guessing. So students, what that means, don't leave any blank, guess. And I'll go into a little bit more information on that too. There is an optional writing section on both ACT and SAT. You can go to your school's website and check to see if they require this optional writing part. Some schools do, some schools don't. If they do require it, sometimes they will not even look at the scores that your student took on the test if they didn't take the writing with it. So make sure you know what your school is requiring. If you're not sure, just go ahead and take that extra test. It's not going to hurt. So SAT, total score, maximum score, the best score is 1600. Everybody would be celebrating if you had a 1600 on the SAT. That's a fabulous thing. The scores are in 2 parts. The evidence-based reading, so a reading test is scored between 200 and 800. The math is also scored between 200 and 800. So the 800 maximum on each score, maximum score is 1600 for the 2 tests combined. The best way to study for the SAT. The SAT is produced by College Board. They only release their official information to Khan Academy. Khan Academy is free. You can go onto this website, and I've got it here. It will customize or tailor a tutorial based on your student's need. After you ask so many questions, or your student answers so many questions, they will get a feel for the ones they're getting right, the ones they're getting wrong, and they will give them more tutoring in the areas that they need. It also explains to them why the answer that they chose was the wrong answer or the right answer. It's really a great program. If you're not familiar with Khan Academy, it is a fabulous website that helps your students. There's even tutorials on physics and algebra and all your subjects. A lot of students really use this as a tutoring tool in the classes that they may be struggling in. So Khan Academy is wonderful. All of your students, if they were at Texas High School last fall, took a PSAT, which is the preliminary SAT. Those tests, if you don't have those scores, you should have received them last year, but the scores for that test can be loaded into Khan Academy. Use those scores to kind of help with strengths and weaknesses and help you with practice questions. We're getting ready for the SAT now. The PSAT will be offered one more time for your students. It is going to be here at Texas High School. It's the National Test Day. All across the country, students take the test on the same day, and it's on October the 11th. This is the year that it counts for your students for National Merit Scholarships. You have to score in the top 99 percentile across the country, but then it opens up the door, unlimited possibilities for college admissions and scholarship opportunities for your students. We will offer it again on October the 11th, and the cost will be $15. There is scholarships available for those tests too. Then the ACT. SAT score, the maximum score is a 36. We would all be celebrating if you had a 36 on the ACT. That would be a fabulous thing. College readiness is right around a 23, and college readiness on the SAT is around 1,050 is the score. So the classes your students pick really do pay off as far as the ACT score. If you look here, this is a historical trend all the way back to the class of 2013. what we call our honor graduates, our highest honors. They're summa cum laude graduates. Those students have a grade point average of 155 or more, and their average ACT score is pretty much trending right around 28, 29. So the more rigorous a course load the students take and the more successful they are in the classes, it correlates strongly to a higher ACT score. Our next level of graduates are a score between 150 and 154.9. They're right around 25, which is just a little bit above college readiness. Our last level of honor graduates, just the cum laude graduates, they are scoring right around a 23, which is college ready. So those students who are taking those in more advanced, more rigorous courses are really doing a good job on the ACT and getting the scores that they need to get into colleges that they want to attend. So I can't encourage enough for your students to take those pre-AP classes, AP classes, dual credit classes, and stay in them and really work hard on those classes because it pays off in the long run as far as ACT and SAT scores. So tackling the test for the ACT, I wanted to kind of give you a few just strategies and hints as your students are possibly getting ready to take this test for the first time. The English part, the ACT is in 4 sections, where the SAT was back in 2. 4 sections: English, math, reading, and science. The English test has 75 questions and 45 minutes. So they've got about a half a minute for each question. The math section is 60 questions, 60 minutes. So about 1 question a minute. Similar in reading and science, about 1 question a minute.
Oh, it's 60.
To get a 23, an average of 23, which is that college readiness number, on the English section, they need to score 54 to 55 correct of the 75 questions. So I can't encourage your student enough to go through that test and answer the ones they don't know. They answer the ones they do know and skip the ones they don't know and get through that test. So they have the time to see all the questions that they possibly do know. So many students think they have to work straight through that test, and they wind up maybe not getting the last 10 or 15 questions that they really could have gotten correct. So encourage your students to know how many questions, to know the time limit, to take a watch in there so that they can watch their time and be prepared so they at least get through all the questions. It's not about answering all the questions, it's about answering the number of questions you need to get the score you want. So skip those ones you don't know. So again, this is a breakdown of the English, so students can kind of figure out what areas they need to study. For example, if you're on that Econ Academy or you're on that tutorial, a good area to spend most of your time in would be sentence structure. That's 18 questions in the English section. You want to get those right, so get really good at the sentence structure questions. In math, you'll see there's not any pre-calculus on there. There is trig, 4 questions. Don't sweat those 4 questions. Spend your time on algebra and geometry.
Why am I wearing
The reading section is pretty much divided up. But there's lots of strategy on the reading section too. A lot of students have benefited from the strategy of reading the questions first, before you read the passage. Read the questions, then go back to the passage to find the answers, or at least know what you're looking for when you read those passages. Lots of different strategies, lots of different ways to tackle this test. Science questions. Again, the science part is really not a test of your science knowledge. It's again reading charts and graphs. So students, again, we recommend that you go to the questions, look to see what the question is, go find the answer in the chart and graph, and you'll be much more successful in the science section. Some other strategies that I've learned over the years. You paid for that test, so mark all over it. Mark out the questions, underline on the questions, that if it says which one is not, underline not. Underline those things to make it stand out to you what you're looking for. Cross out the answers that are obviously wrong. If you cross out the answers that are wrong, it leaves maybe one or two answers. You've got a better shot, a 50-50 chance of getting the right answer. So mark out those wrong ones. The ones that you skip but you think you might know, or if you had more time, put a star beside them. That way then at the end of the test, if there's time to go back, you know to go back to the star ones instead of going back and reading all the different ones. It's just saving you time. Go back to the ones you star. Mark through the ones you think you'll never get so you don't waste time going back to those. Then guess. Make sure your student does not run out of time and leaves the last 10 or 5 or 10 questions blank. It's worth it to guess on both the SAT and the ACT. So that was all about the middle part. Now, talking about financing the education. There are so many different scholarships and ways to fund college. I cannot guarantee you at all that you will get the support that you need to help pay for your students' college without possibly a loan or some other form of debt or something like that. But I think it's worth it for everyone to at least explore the options of scholarships and aids and grant. There's just so much out there for students, so much available for students, and I'll be glad to walk you through the process. Take advantage of the financial aid workshops that we offer at Texas High School that will be going on during their senior year. But right now, one of the main things you can do to increase your chance of scholarships is be involved this year. Make your grades count. Get that ACT or SAT score up as high as you can. Make an impact on the community. That way we've got a story to tell when it comes your time to do those scholarship applications. We've got a story of how you've made an impact, how you're a leader on this campus, how you've worked hard and you've earned those scholarships. Lots of money out there, numerous Texas high school kids going to school right now not paying a dime for it. Lots of them, I'm telling you, lots of kids are not paying anything for their college. In fact, they're getting paid and buying computers and doing things like that. It is possible, but it does take a lot of work on the student's part and on your part to locate and find these scholarship money. One other trick on applying for scholarships, apply to several schools, apply to similar schools. Let's say your student really wants to go to Baylor. I recommend that you apply to Baylor, TCU, SMU. You see that trend? They're all similar schools. All Christian-based schools, similar area, they will compete for your student. So you can, if you really want to go to Baylor, you get a scholarship from TCU offering you $15,000 a year. It's kind of like buying a car. You go to Baylor and say, hey, they're going to give me $15,000 on it. Can you match that? I've seen a lot of times where they do. So just think about those options. So the more options you have on the table, because the more schools you've applied to, the more options you may have as far as scholarship and money.
Okay. I thought, yeah, I was.
Last thing is just to kind of review and keep going over your plans. You know, something may fall apart. This school, you may get a decline. Persevere, go through, keep going, keep applying, keep trying. You may wind up on a wait list. A wait list does not mean you're denied. A wait list means they need more information. Give them more information. Send them another great letter of recommendation. Get another great ACT score just a little bit higher. Really try, let those schools know that that is the place where you want to go. There's a new buzzword called demonstrated interest. That school, if they know you're interested, they know they're your number one spot, they may take a second look at you. So let them know where you're interested. Let them know this is your main school where you're interested wanting to go. Keep those lines of communication open. So I've done a lot of talking. Do y'all have any questions? Yes. Yes, we had all sophomores, the district paid for all sophomores to take the PSAT last year, just to give you a kind of a level playing field to know where you are in the process, so that if you scored really high, you could have studied for the last year to get it to score up. But junior year is the test that counts as far as scholarship. Any other questions? Yes. Most schools, their applications will not open for fall 2 years from now, they will not open until July 1st. This year was the first year Apply Texas opened up on July 1st. The University of Arkansas opened up on July 15th, but the common application, most colleges open up August 1st of your senior year, so this time next year. Yes? Some schools, you may not want to, for the highly competitive Ivy League type schools, you may not want for them to see that you've taken it more than 2 or 3 times. So therefore you would take a lot of practice tests on your own time yourself and just kind of see where you are. Most other schools these days are they're gonna take the highest score. So I think after 3 or 4 times, you really do kind of level out and you're not going to see too much change in your score. So 3, 4, 5 times at the most, I would think is all you would need to take it. But I had a daughter who, some schools super score. So they take the highest score, they take the highest math, they take the highest reading, science, English test, and they super score, so you get this higher level of score, and sometimes that opens up scholarship dollars. My daughter was all over the place. She'd score maybe a 29 in math, and then the next time she'd take it, it would be a 25, and then kind of the reading would do the same in flip-flop. And I thought if she could ever hit that 29 on the same day at the same time, it might bump her overall score to like a 31 or 32 and open up scholarship dollars. Never worked for us. So I kind of made her take it quite a few times that she really punishes me about these days now. But anyway, there's no right answer for that. Every student's kind of different. If you're right there on the cusp of getting to that next level, to me, sometimes the even numbers, sometimes a 28 opens up some money, a 30 opens up some money, a 32 opens up, 34 opens up some more money. If you're right there close, I'd say try it again. I don't know. Yes? Not really. By taking dual credit classes, we offer a lot on Texas High School's campus. For example, let's say your student is in yearbook or newspaper and they're going to be an engineer at their college. A lot of those dual credit hours that they get for newspaper and yearbook are not going to count in their degree later on. So don't think just because you have dual credit hours at Texarkana College, they transfer, but they're not going to count towards your college. But to more specifically answer your question, your students who take dual credit classes, it's very much the common and the norm now that most students enter college with some dual credit hours. You're still what they call a first-time freshman admit. So therefore, it does not affect your application status or applying for scholarships. However, if you're going as a freshman, you're a first-time freshman admit, let's say they're going to give you a scholarship that's $4,000 per year, so for 4 years, so it's a $16,000 scholarship. Your student, if they graduate in 3 years, they're only going to get $12,000 of that $16,000. Does that make sense? So while you don't get the whole scholarship value, you've gained because you haven't paid for a whole year of college. The only time I've seen where the dual credit could get a little bit muddy is if you're a college athlete and it can jeopardize their eligibility status as far as what level and how many years they're eligible to play sports with the NCAA. Any other questions?
Wow.
We did go to different schools each year. We do that through our REACH program. This year we're probably going to go like to Stephen F. Austin and maybe the University of Texas is what we're considering this year. So through our REACH classes, we do different classes and kind of let the kids tell us where they're interested in applying and going each year. Yes. Okay, so there are different ways of being admitted to a school. Some students choose to go early action, early decision. There's different ways to apply to those more selective schools that you're wanting to attend. So if you have a really high ACT score, then and you're really committed to a particular school, you might want to apply for early action, early decision. Early decision is binding, so if the school accepts you and financially you can afford to go there, you have to rescind all of your other applications to other schools. So it's kind of like putting all your eggs in one basket. If that's where your student is dead set on going and that's what they want to do, it's not a bad option because it shows the college you're all in. You're very serious. And so they might be more inclined to accept you. I would rather see those students go early action, but again, it's an individual decision for students. But those deadlines are typically earlier, obviously, than regular admission deadlines. Sometimes students want to gather more information, achieve more accolades and honors during their senior year and apply later rather than earlier. That answer your question? Okay. Anyone else? Yes?
Thank you.
I would really want you to talk to the school where you're ultimately going to attend, and especially this year, being a junior, to kind of discuss what your plans are, because not a lot, the classes that you took for the associate's degree, most of those are going to be general courses that apply to lots of colleges and majors. But it may be that those 2 years don't really count out the whole complete 2 years at the college. So you'd need to discuss with them exactly where you would be in the middle of your degree plan based on those 60 hours that you're going to get from your associate's degree. Okay, thank you all for coming. I'll be here for questions individually if you want to come on out.